What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of This Dude Started Something. We took a little break, but we're officially back with a very exciting guest.
Today's guest is a professional photographer whose work has been seen by millions. He's traveled the world capturing insane shots, and here's the crazy part. When he's not behind the lens, he's working at Google.
If AI ever tries to replace photographers, this guy's the final boss. Me, Aravind Krishnaswamy. How you doing, Aravind?
All right. I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, to start off, I want to touch on like photography, obviously, and we also mentioned that you work at Google, which is very intriguing to us.
You still work at Google?
I do. Yeah, I was just there today.
Perfect. All right.
So it's like photography on the weekends, Google during the week type schedule you got going.
No, it's pretty much I work at Google to fund my photography. So, photography is the
Really?
passion. That's the thing I love doing. I like building products too, but whether it's weekends, vacations, photo trips, that's what it's really about.
Have you worked on Nano Banana at all?
I have not worked on Nano Banana. I have used Nano Banana, but no, I haven't worked on it.
Well, actually, Brayden, we should start with, in the past few years, like, what do you think about AI pictures as a professional photographer?
Yeah. It's a tool. The way I see it, I mean, for me, photography is it's an art. It's a way of communicating. It's a way of evoking emotion. It's a way of being able to have something that gets somebody to feel something that you felt when you were out there, making that photo. And so whether
Yeah.
it's AI, I kind of think of AI the same way that maybe people were asking the same question about Photoshop, 20 years ago of,
Yeah.
like, how do you feel about Photoshop,
True.
right? I think it's kind of the same thing where it's a tool. And if you can use it to get the outcome that you want, to convey the emotion or, convey whether it's beauty or whatever you're feeling, then, you use it for that. And so I have my own, like me personally as a photographer, I have my own set of rules for the things that I'm willing to do and not do in tools like Photoshop or Lightroom. And I kind of apply the same thing, with AI. So I just look at it
Okay.
the same way.
What are some of those rules?
I'll use AI um, to kind of reinforce a point. So if I'm taking a photo and like let's say there's like a distraction in there, or let's say there's something
Okay.
that's not really the main point, it's not really part of the main composition, and it would just be really hard to otherwise get rid of it. Like get rid of it when I'm out of the field, or get rid of it just using the tools that I'll have in Photoshop. I might use AI, to go in and be able to
Okay.
clear that out. I'll give you another example. Actually, I used this. I used it recently when Adobe added generative expand into
Yeah.
Photoshop. I had a photo that I took on it was a trip to a part of South Africa of this crash of rhino, and it's amazing. And so when you come across rhino, you're freaking out. You're just trying to like get your camera and you're trying to get the shots as fast as you can. And I'd kind of framed it where I was a little too tight on the group of rhino, and I wanted an ultimate image that was going to be a little bit more panoramic with more of the scenery around it. But I didn't. At the moment, I didn't have the clarity to think, oh yeah, maybe zoom out and then we'll crop it later. But I was able to go into Photoshop, take my little bit of a tight image and get it to generative expand and create more of a panoramic image. Now in that case, that particular final image, that's only for my purposes. I typically don't sell those. I don't put those up for for licensing types of
Okay.
things. But yeah, I use it. And it worked out well for me.
Awesome.
So you're essentially combining real life photos with kind of a little bit of AI editing in there. Uh, do you think and that's able to convey the same emotions as like a regular raw photo? Do you think a full AI photo will eventually be able to grab people's attention like a natural one?
I'll kind of say two things, right? Yeah, I think that I'll say never because you never know, right? Like
Yeah.
what's going to happen. At the same time, I do use a bunch of the generative AI tools, whether it's Nano Banana or other things for like for work. Like if I'm trying to put together a presentation, I want to do a slide
Right.
deck, that sort of thing. And so uh, a lot of the times when I use it, it just doesn't, at least for me, it doesn't evoke the same kind of emotion.
Mhm.
I find that just even knowing that a human, a photographer went out and they did a bunch of work to capture that image, that's actually the thing that ends up being, satisfying. So I
Mhm.
guess it depends on what the use case is. For example, today I did a presentation, at work, and as a part of that presentation, I had a slide deck, and I needed this, this picture. I had this concept, in my mind, and I just needed something just to kind of hold the audience's attention for a little bit while I was there, talking, kind of telling my thing. And for that, an AI image, works great.
Mhm.
Previously, I might have gone and tried to look in, like Google image search, or, go look at stock
Mhm.
photos or things like that. But I didn't need to do that. Like AI worked great. If I'm gonna go, or if I'm gonna go to like a gallery, if I'm gonna go, or even if I'm scrolling on social media and I'm looking at, what people are posting or what people are putting up there, I think I want to see stuff that's made by people. That just seems more interesting, to me. So I think that's kind of where I am right now. But the rate at which things are changing and going, who knows what'll happen in the next few years.
That's so true. And the tool you're talking about, are you talking about Gamma to make your
Uh
slides?
to make my no, I do. I just use the Google Workspace
Oh,
slides.
okay.
Yeah, just do it.
Yeah, I mean, you
I
can't
still kind of do it from scratch. Yeah.
Okay.
can't cheat on Google, you know what I mean?
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Top
Okay,
of mind.
going back to the rhinos though. We actually had someone on here. His name's Jeremy Grant, and he protects photographers from polar bears in the Arctic. Do you have protection out there from rhinos?
No, you don't. Usually, you don't need it. So the rhinos, we were photographing that in a reserve. So in Africa, you have your national parks, but then I tend to go to the game reserves. So they're basically just a concession of land, and then usually there's like a lodge, or a place to stay on there. And then you take the vehicles, that the lodge provides. But you basically work with drivers and guides that are very experienced. They know the behavior of the animal. They'll stay a safe distance away from them. They won't do like dumb things that end up aggravating them. And as long as you do that, they are basically habituated to treat the vehicles that we're in as neither as something that is a threat, nor is it a food source. So it's just kind of there, and they just don't mind. So whether that's rhinos or lions, or leopard or cheetah or elephants or any of those things, as long as you're working with guides who kind of
Mhm.
respect the wildlife, kind of maintain that the appropriate distance, don't aggravate them, you're completely safe.
So do you shoot from the car then, or
I shoot from a safari vehicle, a game vehicle. So it's
okay?
basically a modified Toyota or Land Rover, and usually they're usually open top, so there's no roof, there's no windows, and usually when I go, I'll try to have like an entire row to myself.
Mhm.
So that we can position the vehicle, with the wildlife either to the right or to the left, and then just shoot right from the vehicle. Sometimes, you will, if they're calm enough, you can, kind of stick yourself out the side of the vehicle, kind of lower your camera to the ground, and fire off shots. Done that a few times as well.
Dang, like a drive-by. Shoot, that's crazy, man.
Well,
Um,
actually, you say drive by. The rhino one was interesting because so rhino, because they've been hunted and poached a lot, they can be very, very skittish. They,
mhm,
they really
Mhm.
are kind of cautious around humans. And so this crash of rhino is a big family, and they were mostly just feeding, but they were moving along, like pretty quickly. And so we didn't have too much time to kind of stop, and that's why even I was in a rush, right, of trying to grab the images, because you're just kind of moving and moving and moving, and you don't want to make them feel like they're being chased, and so you kind of have to predict which direction they're going to go in, and you kind of figure out how to go kind of parallel to them, and kind of park in a spot where they're at the right place and the light is at the right place, and then you're constantly
Yeah.
just moving and with them as they're moving.
Oh, that's hard. Yeah.
wow,
It's got to be
that's a
tricky.
I can't even take Instagram photos, dude. Like, it
I
you know what
know.
I mean? Just standing still, like, of myself. So I know you were saying that, in particular, that rhino shot, you were a little too zoomed in. Um, it kind of had me thinking, are there any other moments you can think of that you missed the shot, and it would have been like such a good shot, but it just, the way the elements lined up, it just didn't work out.
Oh, yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another kind of amazing wildlife experience is photographing gorillas in
Oh
Rwanda.
wow.
So there's a place in Rwanda in Volcanoes National Park where you have to get a permit because humans are only allowed to be with the gorilla family for an hour, in the day. And so
Mhm.
you set out with with your guides and actually they even have porters because it's a fairly steep and intense climb in the jungle. And once you find that family of gorilla, you stay with them. These are mountain gorillas, and you stay with them for an hour, and you just basically get to watch them, watch them interact and everything. And one of the things that will sometimes happen is the silverback, which is kind of the head honcho of the family.
Mhm.
If he if he senses or if he's kind of probing, who you are, he will kind of like stand up a bit and beat his chest and and do a little bit of a show. Uh, if you're not used to that, the first time that happens, again, you're kind of freaking out, right? And you're like,
Oh yeah,
"Oh, like, yeah,
I'm
what am I
sure.
doing?" And so, yeah, that happened the first time I did. I actually did 3 treks, 3 days, back to back. The very first day and the very first time that happened, you're kinda just I was just kind of frozen in the moment and didn't, wasn't really thinking about the shot to take or whatever. But if I had gotten that, it would have just been, this kind of, you can even go and look, there's kind of these iconic images of kind of a gorilla doing the chest beating pose.
Yeah.
I did get that kind of shot, the next day a little bit. It was a little bit better, with a little bit more practice, but yeah, I miss the that really iconic.
How many shots are you taking on an average day like this? I went with my girlfriend on like a little trip the other week, and she has a camera. We brought like two batteries, and
Yeah.
then like in a few hours, I mean, we were just like done with power. So like, how many batteries are you bringing as well, like on a
Uh,
practical level?
Actually, no, these days the cameras have gotten so good that the batteries aren't a problem. I basically just bring usually for like a wildlife trip.
Uh huh.
I always bring multiple bodies, so I'll always have at least 2 bodies, sometimes 3 bodies. Sometimes I'll have 3 bodies because I want a backup, as well,
Yeah.
in case, stuff happens. But even outside of the backup, I don't like changing lenses when I'm out in the field, because you're out and it's dusty and there's like, stuff in the air and everything. And then you
Right.
don't want to be sitting there fiddling, with lenses while all the action's happening. So, I'll
Mhm.
actually be using, 2 cameras simultaneously. And so if I have that set up, usually I just have 1 extra battery and that's it. That's usually good for,
Yeah.
for the entire day. So kind of the 3 batteries, 2 cameras, 1 extra battery, that's all it takes. Um, and so in terms of like the volume, it depends on the kind of, so I do what I call like nature photography. So that's both like landscape, abstracts, stuff like that, and wildlife photography. The volume depends on the kind of photography that I'm doing. So the more like the landscape and abstract and things like that, I might end up, I'm not usually, taking photos, in a continuous burst.
Hmm.
So not sitting there like machine gun mode,
Yeah.
bang, 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 because, it's not moving, right? The landscape's not
Right.
moving that quickly, right? And so in those cases, it's like, yeah, I might take like 100 pictures, in a
Okay.
day, and then I'll probably whittle it down and probably get rid of, 90 of them, and then I'll probably end up keeping about 10 of them. In the wildlife case, though, it's a lot more because you've got animals that are moving, and sometimes you'll have a mom and a cub, and there'll be interactions, and you'll have just like all kinds of stuff going on. Or like I can go to, say again, like in Africa, and you might encounter a pack of wild dogs, like wild African dogs, which are amazingly beautiful creatures. And they're like, if they're on a hunt, they're moving all over the place and they're running and going all over, and you can end up, I can end up, basically taking 1,000 photos just in the span of 30 minutes just in kind of, photographing that hunt. Now, then
Wow.
I go back and that 1,000 photos will probably end up being about, maybe 20 or 30, that I'll end up keeping because you end up, deleting
Yeah.
a lot of the ones that are, that just don't work out. But yeah, it could be, even 1,000 over the course of over a couple of hours. But I'll say, like, for most of my trips for the wildlife ones, on average, I probably come back with, or probably have shot about maybe 2 or 3,000 a day. And then I will write, when I'm out there on that trip, I'll delete about maybe 3/4 of them. And so I'll end up coming back with about maybe 500 a day. And then over the course of the next couple of weeks, I'll whittle that down as well to probably until it comes down to about, 200, in a day. And then after it's about 200, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna delete anymore. I'll just keep them for like future reference or,
Yeah.
or other purposes.
How do you decide
Mhm.
what photos to keep? Was that going to be your question, Oliver? Or
No, I'm
even
just saying,
like,
like, that's a good question. That's a
yeah,
great question.
and even like, I mean, I know there's a selection process for like a lot of like you have photos
Yeah.
on the TVs and stuff, like in Oliver's room, literally. I know that's like a different process, but for you personally, is it like an emotional aspect? Like which one kind of speaks to you that you keep? How does that work?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, that's exactly right. It's an emotional aspect. So for me, so I used to be very hesitant to delete photos. So when I was first starting off, like my first, I'd say 10 years, maybe even 15 years, I would basically not delete anything. And so then I'd go through and kind of pick out my favorites, and then I would, like edit those, share those. But about 5 years ago, I started working with like another professional, photographer. We became very good friends, and he is a ruthless deleter. And so kind of hanging out with him, and his photos like they're so much better, than mine. It's like the ones he's deleting are the ones like I'd be keeping. And so I'm kind of watching him work. I'm like, okay, like why am I hanging on to all these, like all these old photos? So I've just started more just kind of ruthlessly just deleting stuff and really just hanging on to the things that, that really like mean something, or they, convey something. So for example, for wildlife, I will look for often interactions, like interesting interactions. So if you've got like let's say a leopard, mom and a cub, and they're like walking along and they're walking on the ground and up on logs, and they'll sit, and sometimes the cub will play with the mom, and you'll have captured a lot of different moments. And what I'll basically be looking for is, are there some really like interesting, captivating ones? Are there ones like one of the things I like doing is looking for uh, expressions that seem like human emotions, and you kind of like like either and it's always fun to kind of make a little joke or something about it. Um, like sometimes I'll have I think it was just my most recent Instagram photo. I posted this photo of this bear cub that
I
was kind of
saw that.
sliding down on its
Yeah.
belly right
Yeah.
towards the river, and you look at its face. At least I look at its face, and I'm like, yeah, that guy thinks that he's sneaking up on us, right? It's like it's kind of what you'd expect, like a 3-year-old kid that's playing with you, that's kind of playing hide and seek. Now I know that's not exactly what the bear, was doing. And I was there, it was kind of just sliding around on its belly. But I happened to capture that moment with that kind of expression in its face. That's what it reminded me of, this kind of, like cheeky, fun, kid that's playing around. Like I'll keep pictures like that because it just kind it evokes that emotion. It kind of conveys a bit of the kind of behavior you might expect out of like a human child or a human, but it's not really that. And so it kind of makes for an interesting photo. It makes for an interesting thing to say, an interesting thing to share. Those are the
Yeah.
kinds of things that appeal.
For
Yeah.
sure.
We'll for everybody listening, we're gonna link Arvind's Instagram in the show notes because this bear looks exactly like Paddington Bear. It's so crazy. Like I was like, I thought it was animation. It was so crazy. It was, yeah, it was the expression
Dude, it
was
was crazy. Yeah.
hmm
Okay, so we're talking about these trips, like rhino trip, gorilla trip, this last bear trip. How many countries, like big picture, how many countries have you been to, and how many trips have you done that are just for photography?
A fair amount. So I've been to all 7 continents for photography. So country-wise, I don't know, probably for photography, somewhere around 20, 30, something like that.
Mhm.
I've been back to places, multiple times.
Right.
There are a few, kind of iconic places you go, for certain things. And then in terms of trips, I try to do a couple of them every year. And then I try to do some local stuff as well, like especially a
Mhm.
lot of like coastal landscape photography and things like that in California here, where I live. Um, uh, and so yeah, so the big international ones, especially the big international wildlife ones, probably a couple a year over the course of 15 years or so. So I've probably done about 30 or 40 trips like that.
Have you ever done a wedding before?
I have done a wedding,
Really?
so
Oh,
I've done
dude.
actually more than one wedding. I've done a couple of weddings, and in the course of doing that, I realized that I really should stick to photographing wildlife and not photograph people. It's a very different skill set, and it's a different way. It's a different way of operating. It's a different kind of stress and pressure as well.
Mm.
Yeah, this is when I was first starting off with
Okay.
photography. Probably 2009. I think is when when I did a couple of weddings, and I have not done them since. I even had some friends and family even ask a couple of years later. It's like, hey, can you photograph our wedding? It's like, no, no, I'm happy to come and be a guest, and I'll, like I'll snap a picture with my phone, but like yeah, I don't want that pressure for being a wedding photographer.
Yeah,
Okay,
because like when
well,
you're photographing wildlife, the animals aren't gonna get mad if you don't get the shot. But
they
like
might
Yeah,
bite you
exactly.
though.
that
And like
that's
the
true.
bride and groom probably aren't gonna bite you.
Yeah, but they could.
I don't know. There's some
They're
there's some
watching.
crazy brides and grooms. Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, let's talk about the TV. This is where I actually discovered you. Basically, like every night, I mean, I have the TV on too much, and then I'm like not even watching, and it's just kind of there for light. And it always goes to Google featured photos and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And your pictures are always up there. And just night after night, I was like, okay, who is this guy? These pictures are crazy. And that's when I explored more, and I like told Brayden about you, and then we're like, okay, we got to get this guy on the podcast. So explain to us how you get those pictures licensed. Like, do you win competitions? Like, because so many people are seeing these photos. How do you get them there?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an anticlimactic story of how they, how they got up there. So I'll tell you how they started.
Okay.
And I don't know, you guys might not remember this, but Google at one point had a social network many years ago. It's called Google Plus. That was like 2011, I think, is when it came out. Interestingly enough, that was actually the first thing I worked on at Google. So I started Google 13 years ago. I worked on Google Plus photos, and one of the things that Google Plus was having success with was in the photography community. So there were a lot of photographers that that liked it. There were photographers that
Hmm.
were using it, and we built a feature there where we built featured photos. So what actually happened was it would go and take all of the most popular like the ones that got a lot of likes and had a lot of engagement. It would kind of build this set of featured photos, and then as a part of that, we also had a bunch of professional photographers that we would include some of their content in there, and kind of have this featured photos thing in Google Plus. So what happened was then when we started building the like the Android TV and the those Chromecast products, the things that you're
Yeah.
using now, where it's on the screensaver, they just decided to use that set of featured photos in for that purpose. This is how it started many years ago. Well, when Google Plus went away, well, there wasn't a place to get these featured photos anymore. So the
Mm.
team inside of Google that was responsible for that was trying to figure out, well, what do we do here? We had, we used to get all these great photos that like kind of, normal people would take. And they'd be great photos. They're not like your things that are in your galleries and museums and things like that. They have some set of images for that too. And what the team decided to do is, hey, wait a second, like we're Google. We actually, we have a lot of employees. And it turns out that we have a lot of employees that love photography and that are actually really good at photography. So why don't we just ask like our employees
Yeah.
if they want to submit their photos? And that's what they started doing. So they started doing this probably it was like 10 years ago. And so every year, they go and they put out a call and basically say, anybody, in the company, submit your photos, and then they have a whole like jury and panel, and they figure. I don't know how the mechanics of that works, but they go and figure out, well, which ones are we going to take and add to our collection of featured photos. And so I've just been lucky enough that so every year when it comes along, I submit a bunch of new photos, into it, and I've been lucky to have a bunch of my photos selected for it.
Wait, so does it reset every year?
No, I think they just keep adding to
Okay.
the collection. I think they keep adding, and I don't know if they remove any of the really old ones to get kind of freshness in there, but I know they definitely keep adding.
No, I
That's
think that's a
awesome.
cool story though, Arvin. I think that
Yeah.
it's kind of like you're the guy, you know. I mean, like that's pretty cool. It's like exclusive photos only, you know. So
Yeah,
do
and
they
also
send
it
you
kind of links the two jobs.
exactly?
Oh,
Yeah,
it
no. Oh
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
I'm sure you were like super hyped about that. It's kind of like I mean, it goes back to what you were
Well,
saying. Like Google kind of pays for your hobby of photography, you know.
it does. And actually the link gets so for me, like photography and my professional career has been linked for a long time. So before I joined Google, I used to work in Adobe. I've worked on Photoshop, I've worked on Lightroom,
Uh-uh.
and so then done kind of a bunch of like photo related stuff, in a professional capacity. I know at Adobe. And then when I came to Google, like I said, I joined Google Plus Photos at first, but then when that was going away, I ended up kind of co-founding Google Photos with a bunch of folks, and basically helped build that product. So did that for my first 6 years, and that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, kind of being like a serious photographer, outside of work, and then going into work and building this photos product that's the home for all of your photos. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a great time. Got to work with the Nick software, people when Google acquired that company, and that's like a professional set of plugins for Photoshop, Lightroom, Snapseed, came out of that. So was responsible for that, for some amount of time. So it was yeah, it was a lot of fun combining the two those years.
So when you, I don't know how much, like, if you're even allowed to talk about this, like the process behind, like, when you first got involved with Google Plus, it's like, is it kind of like, what's that movie, Oliver, that we watched?
Are you
What's
talking
that
about the
movie?
social network?
Yes, yeah.
Well, I also want to know what happened to Google Plus. I'm going to be honest, I don't really know what it is.
It sounds awesome, but yeah, yeah.
You
What
guys,
happened there?
I don't know, you guys might be too young to remember that era, but yeah, Google Plus was um, Google's response, yeah, really to Facebook. So Facebook started blowing up at the in kind of the mid 2000s, late
Mhm.
2000s, and like I think Google felt like, hey, like we needed like there's a lot of people that are going into this social network product, and there's a lot of engagement that's happening there, and we want to build something like that, for ourselves. And so it was an attempt to go do that, and it didn't really. In spite of the actual product, the features, the capabilities, they were pretty awesome. It was pretty slick, but it turns out it's really hard to build a brand new like social product where you have to kind of pull in all of your friends and contacts into it, from the ground up.
Mhm.
And so it didn't really, catch on, and then, kind of fizzled out by 2013, 2014. I think it was 2014.
When did you guys acquire YouTube? Did that kind of replace it in a sense as like somewhat of a social network?
I think maybe in hindsight now you could say that, but no, but YouTube, Google acquired YouTube in 2006, I believe.
Okay. So pretty, yeah, pretty early.
Yeah, yeah, it was
So
pretty early. Yeah.
the movie I was thinking about was The Internship. How accurate
Oh,
is
my bad.
working
Oh
at
yeah.
Google to the internship?
Uh,
That's a good question.
Did they have
it's
sleeping
it's
pods?
a it's definitely a dramatization, right? So I mean,
Okay.
it's like anything else you might, it's like how accurate is I don't know, like the pit or ER or your, Grey's Anatomy, right? To working in a
Yeah.
hospital.
Right.
There's elements of it that's probably true, but there's there's other things that are that are exaggerations, but I think there's aspects of it that kind of capture a lot of the essence maybe of what it was like, to work at Google, especially in that era then, which is I think a different era to where a lot of the big tech companies are now. But yeah, I think the essence wise, kind of um, the fun, like the camaraderie, building stuff, together, kind of challenging the status quo, all of those things are yeah, that's kind of what it's like.
Have you ever used the nap pod?
Have I think once, yeah. I don't think it was in the office here. I think
Nice.
it was in one of
Bro's
our
acting like
other
he doesn't use it every
offices.
day, dude.
Well, it's just like you think you will, and then your
Yeah.
day is just so busy. But no, but I think
Yeah.
I used it in I was visiting one of our other offices, I think like our Zurich office or something like that, and I was jet lagged and
Yeah.
tired, and so you're like,
Mm,
okay, I just got to go like duck into this thing for 15 minutes.
yeah. It'd be kind of hard when you got stuff to do, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you said you're leaving again. Like we'll venture back into photography.
Hmm.
I believe you said you're leaving again soon to travel. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm gonna be heading to Egypt actually next week.
Oh,
That's a
wow.
new one for me.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
not a wildlife trip. It's a culture photography trip.
Awesome.
When you go to a place like that, do you go in kind of with a picture in your head that you want to get, or do you kind of just show up and see what happens?
No, it's a mix of both. So
Okay.
I will do research on on the places. Um, I don't like to look at too much of other people's work because I don't want to just go and just capture kind of the same image that
Mm,
others have gotten. But I'll do a little bit of research to have an idea of kind of like what's there, what do I want to do, what are the things I want to check out, well, like what times of day I might want to check them out, what are some maybe concepts I might look for. Um, and then it's a mixture of like yeah of kind of taking then what happens kind of being having a bit of serendipity to it. So like I know I'm going to go to a camel market, that's I think that's been
mm,
arranged one of the days, and I kind of have an idea of like, okay, you're going to go to a camel market, they're going to have a lot of camels coming in, camels are going to be dusty, and so there's a bit of an idea of like of what kind of images that I might want to make. Do I want to do abstracts of the cow, just say body parts of the camel? Do I want to take pictures of the whole thing? Do I want to see if I can figure out how to kind of position it against the light? I know there's going to be a bunch of visits to temples, to pyramids. I think that we might even be able to get some camels to come to the pyramids, and so there's probably an idea of like there's probably a shot that I think I want to get that's going to involve, a couple of camels in front of pyramids or in front of
yeah.
temples. So yeah, I kind of have an idea of roughly the set of things to do. But then apart from that, you just got to take it and see kind of what inspires you
Yeah.
when you're there.
Dude, it would be kind of cool if you could get like the proportions right so that you can make it look like a camel was sitting on top of a pyramid. You know what I mean? So like, so the
Dude, that'd be
pyramid's
so
way
hard.
far away. No, it'd be hard, but it's like, yeah, and I guess like, you have to get the camel mid sit, which would be kind of one of those moments where it's like rapid fire. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just scheming
Oh
here.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm pyramid scheming.
I know, and that's the thing. That's the kind of thing. Like if you wanted to pull that off, you have to get down low, get far, get a telephoto lens, kind of compress things a little bit, and then like you have an idea of that kind of image you might want to make. Sometimes you just gotta wait, right? And so, like you said,
Hmm.
you might have to catch a camel mid sit, and so then you notice. So part of it is that you might get to the camel market, you might notice that well they come in from over here and then they walk this way, so if that was an image that I wanted to make, I might say, okay, I think I've seen a bunch of them come in. They kind of walk this way, and then they kind of sit down here. So if I position myself here, and have this as the background, and then I just wait, right? And then you just kind of try it and see if you can do it. So yeah, that's exactly how it works.
Would you say you're pretty like laid back during these trips, or I don't want to say like stressed out, but maybe like
I feel like it'd be stressful.
I would always, yeah, I'd be like, I need to get my shot. Like, I don't
Yeah, and then
know.
like
Oh,
if you're only taking bad photos, then you're gonna be like, shoot, like I still need to get a good one. And
Why am I even here? I
oh
just
yeah,
dropped
yeah, yeah.
money.
No, no. There's a range of emotions and kind of states of mind that you go through, on these trips, and um, and so it takes me a couple of days to get into kind of the headspace of like being creative and being like a photographer. Because when I'm not on the trip, I'm doing a bunch of like computer stuff and team stuff and whatever, right? So you're not in the like I'm creating art zone, and so that takes a couple of days. And sometimes like I'll go on a trip and like, man, the first day will just kind of be a bust. You're just having a hard time just kind of getting into the groove, getting into the zone of it. But then after a couple of days, you really start kind of, it's like just like you're kind of in a state of flow when it comes to that, to the photography. And the reason why I like the dedicated trips is I don't combine the photography trips with like any other vacations or anything like that.
yeah.
Like when I'm doing the trip, photography is what I'm doing. I'm shooting during the day. When I'm not shooting, I'm downloading images,
Hmm.
going through them, culling them, getting rid of them. I'm editing. Like it is I'm in that zone of kind of creating images. And so what happens is you do that, and then you start getting into that, like into that zone. And eventually it's almost like in every trip, I'll reach a point of satisfaction where it's just like, man, I'm good. Like this, like I've gotten a bunch of really great images. I've gotten stuff I haven't seen before, and like I'm feeling really good. That's point of satisfaction is when it's like, and sometimes I'll have a couple days left, over still. I'll still have a few more days left. I'll be like, this is great. Everything else now is just gravy. It's a bonus. This trip has
Yeah.
already been worthwhile for everything I thought I was going to get. And then and then you come to the end of it, and and you're good. So that's been kind of how most of the trips go. Oh, there's a few of them where it's just frustrating because the conditions just aren't working out, like the weather's not working out, or the sightings are just not working
Hmm.
out. That tends to be rare, but even in those situations, I just kind of feel like, yeah, look, I mean, it's either this or I'm sitting in the office working. And so, like I'm out here in Africa or Antarctica or the Arctic or wherever, like, I'm still having fun. So I don't find it stressful.
It's a good attitude. Yeah.
For sure. So this is kind of just like a little random tidbit. And, no, all of this is serious, and I really think that you could help out the audience here. If you could give like a beginner photographer 3 tips about photography, what do you think they would be?
3 tips. Okay. So tip one is experiment and like try everything. Uh, so for me, like I've done all kinds of, like I told you, I did weddings, right? Hey,
Yeah.
you learn, right? That's an experiment.
Uh-huh.
So experiment and try everything. Um, tip two is like don't sweat the gear as much. Like everybody gets into the gear obsession. I mean,
Yeah.
if all you got is a phone, like use a phone. You can make great images like just with a phone, or if you've got like your like cheap camera that your mother gave you, great. Just go use that. So don't sweat that. This is not going to make you a better photographer. Yeah,
Flash.
Kodak Easy Share, go for it. You can, yeah, it's amazing. You can still make great pictures with it. And then let's see, tip three. Uh, I think I'd say, I think it's kind of going back to the first one. You want to experiment and try everything, but I think as you're doing that, like try to figure out what you want to say with your images, because the the thing that I think a lot of beginners, and I fall into this trap too, is you're just kind of out because the, the two things are kind of polar opposites of each other. So when you're experimenting, you're kind of taking pictures of everything, right? Everything, everywhere, all the time. But just doing that isn't necessarily always going to be helpful. And so what you want to do is in the process of doing that, you want to start to figure out, well, like, what's my thing? What is, and that might be a style, that might be a point of view, that might be a particular way that, that you see stuff, whatever that is, you want to try to kind of figure out what, your thing is. What are you trying to say? And then experiment within that and try different things, within
Right.
that. And that's how you kind of start to develop a body of work that, um, that's not just kind of a random, collection of images.
That's great advice. And Brayden, that was a great question. I like that question.
Thank you. I got another banger.
Okay.
It honestly could be stupid. We'll see. But how do you feel about
Go on.
filters?
Ooh.
Wait, what kind of filters?
Not lens filters, right, Brayden? You're talking about
No. Like the
like in your phone
Snapchat dog.
filter.
I'm
Oh,
playing.
Instagram filters?
No, I'm just joking. No, like after in post,
Yeah,
put
like
Yeah.
vivid warm, like that. Like that
yeah,
crap.
Poco. You know what I
I
mean?
I mean, look, I feel the same way about it that I feel about AI, which is it's just a tool, right? And
Mhm.
so if vivid warm or whatever sepia cool,
Mhm.
it helps to convey the thing that you want to convey, go forward and use it. In fact, I think I've used filters very rarely, and sometimes I will just try it, right, and go and swipe and you kind of
Yeah.
try it, and I'm trying it, I'm like, yeah, and sometimes I'll run across something where I'll be like, "Ooh, actually, that looks kinda cool." And I might not apply it. I might go back and 'cause I kind of have an idea of how, like, those filters work. I'll be like, "I like that, but maybe I don't want it as strong. Maybe I wanna
Yeah.
change, that tint a little bit." And then I'll go back to my tools and I'll try to use it. So, look, like, filters are just, they're just a tool like anything else. If it helps you to convey the thing you wanna convey, go for it, use it.
Do you have a Google phone or an iPhone?
Ah, I have both. I have both.
Oh,
I literally dual carry.
Kevin
Um,
Gates over here.
and I have both because actually it's when I started working on photos on Google Photos. Google Photos is available for the iPhone and
Mhm.
for all Android devices. So I started carrying two phones with me all the time. In fact, I'm carrying two phones with me right now in my pockets. And so ever since I've always carried both. And the other thing for me is I love technology. I love how technology can be used to like to express ourselves, to tell stories, to like make people's lives better, like all of those things. I'm generally like a techno optimist, and so I kind of like to keep tabs on everything that's going on out there.
Which one do you think takes better photos?
I will say I think it changes almost year by year.
Hmm.
And it also depends on which lens you're using on those phones. So,
Yes,
uh,
I was
so
gonna ask
it,
about that.
it's
Yeah.
complicated now, right? So, like
Mhm.
sometimes there's one phone where the main camera will take a better photo, but then in the other phone, the telephoto will take a better photo. So it all depends. And they're constantly leapfrogging each other too.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing.
What do you think about the point 0.5 setting on the phone? Because like lots of people, especially girls, will be like, "Don't use point 0.5. Don't like
Yeah.
it makes me look stupid, whatever." I think it's pretty cool, like being able to capture that much of like a place with point 0.5.
So the point 0.5 setting, it's the same as like as when you first get an ultra wide angle
Mm.
lens, like when you're using like a big camera and you get like
Yeah.
an ultra wide or like a fisheye lens or something, right? Which
Mhm.
is it can feel like you want to take every photo with it, but I look at it again the same way as filters, the same way with like, is it actually helping you or is it hurting you in the thing in whatever it is that you're trying to do with it? So for me, I use my phone to like record moments and memories. So I'm
Mhm.
not usually using my phone for my kind of professional photography. I have a bunch of other professional gear for that, but I use it for like again like recording moments and memories. So I'll use the point 0.5 when I'm trying to like record a really big space and it's relevant. So I think I used it once. I was photographing some family. It was in a was like in a restaurant or a cafe that we were in that had a ton of just beautiful flower bouquets everywhere, right? And so I took one photo at the with the normal, 1x lens, and it's like, okay, and that's okay. You've got a person, you've got a few flowers around them, but then you punch out to that 0.5, and as long as you're careful to put the person in the middle
Hmm.
of the
Yeah.
frame so that they don't
Right.
get all distorted, then you get this like, this huge swath of all of these flowers that are in it, and that's a really cool photo. So, it's got a purpose.
Yeah. Okay, I got another kind of crazy question. This is completely unrelated to phones, but I think it'd be really cool if you did it. Have you ever considered underwater photography?
I
Ooh.
have. So I am open water certified, so
Okay.
I can
Oh,
technically go diving.
jeez.
I've considered it. I haven't done it, mostly because it's just I've been busy with all the stuff
Yeah.
Mhm.
above water. There's a lot of common skills. I have friends who are some serious underwater photographers. Actually, I have a friend who does not. So there's kind of two kinds of underwater photography. So you can basically go full scuba, the full gear. You actually need lights as well because it gets pretty dark, down there.
Mm.
And you can go and there's incredible photographs you can take. But I have a friend who he actually runs tours for people where they do like shallow diving photography.
Okay.
So you're not in like a full, like breathing apparatus and BCDs and everything. Instead, you're kind of close to the surface and you're diving and swimming with whales in particular. And
Nice.
you take, and he's got just incredible photos of of whales, like shooting down at whales, going down and then kind of looking up, at whales, stingray,
Wow.
things like that. So
Oh,
he keeps telling me, and
you
now I'm
gotta
I'm
do it.
gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna get in trouble because he's gonna watch this and he's gonna be like, dude, I've been asking you to come with me for
Yep.
years now. I gotta go do it.
You
I gotta
gotta
take
do
him
it
up on
now.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be such a learning curve probably though, but like you should totally do it. Don't you think it'd be a little bit way different, like the lighting and everything?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No,
I
it's
mean,
it's a different kind of challenge. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's the beauty of really photography is you can go do these things.
Yeah, and well, what I think is cool about underwater photography is that, well, one thing about photography in general, especially the stuff you've done, is like showing people things that they've never got to see. Like
mm,
these incredible
Yeah.
landscapes or incredible animals, but that's a whole nother level once you're underwater. Like 99% of people are never going to be able to see that. So like taking high quality photos of it is so impactful, probably.
I think you're right. I mean, yeah, you guys are making me feel bad. I gotta go. I gotta go. I gotta go talk to my buddy. I gotta be like, okay, man, Oliver and Brayden are making me, want to come on a trip with you.
dude, yeah. No, no. I mean,
We can't wait to see them. Yeah.
your photos still capture that idea though, where it's like, well, I mean,
Yeah, that was my first example. Yeah, of course.
right. But there is something about like I'm on land right now, so there's still a chance I might run into a bear or like a camel or
Yeah, yeah.
some. But it's like a whale, I doubt it, you know. But
Yeah, I don't know. All right. As a smart guy, you were in computer science, right? Okay. You don't have to answer this. We ask a lot of our guests this question. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but do you think the moon landing was real from a computer science standpoint?
Um, from a computer science, I mean, I think the moon landing was real, mostly from a social standpoint of people are terrible at keeping secrets, and
Mm,
so that many
okay.
people keeping that kind of secret, I like it's just not it's just like that's not how humans work. All right, it's like
mhm.
people can't even keep a simple secret. So I think from that sense, I think I think it was real. From a computer science perspective, yeah, sure, why not? It's actually pretty amazing the like the level to which I think we take for granted a lot of the tools and technologies that we have, and you start scratching the surface of how some of the stuff works, and you get into it, and you're like, holy cow! Like it is, like it's really cool that somebody figured this out, and then because they
Yeah.
figured it out, like we have this thing now, and like the example that comes to mind was just the other day, I don't know why I was sitting there, I'm like like MRI machines, how do they I've had a few MRIs done. Like, how do they work? And so I use Gemini, and I go on there. I'm like, yeah, describe to me how it works, and it tells me everything about, like, like magnets and superconductors. And I'm like, who discovered this? How'd they figure this out? It goes all the way back to, like, this guy in 1911, figured out this whole superconductor thing, and because of that, you can have these big, powerful magnets, and because of that, they can see inside of you. And so, but then now, like, you have like a pain, or injure yourself in some way, you just go to a hospital, and then they stick you in this machine, and out comes, and there's a picture, like, you take that, for
Yeah,
granted. And so I use
100%.
that as an example to say that, like, there's so much that we have that have this kind of like complex problems that we've solved. I'm like, yeah, totally. I can believe that, especially with what we're capable of, as a country, we put our minds to it. Yeah, we sent
Yeah.
guys to the moon. I think
Okay.
it's totally doable. I think it's done.
Fair enough. Our podcast has a lot of entrepreneur like type listeners. That's kind of what we do. We have people that have started something on here. As someone who works at Google and in tech, with pretty much zero barrier to entry now for creating a company,
Mhm.
especially with AI and all this, what is like some advice you have, or also like, do you think it's doable now, or is it reasonable? Like, is there still things that haven't been done? Because sometimes we have these conversations where we're like, oh, we could do this, and then we're like, oh, but that's been done, or like it's been tried and all this.
I'll say two things. So one, yes, it is totally doable. In fact, there's never been a better time to go do stuff, to go build stuff. Uh, I say this to my teams at Google, that um like, everything that's going on with AI, what it's really doing is it's empowering the builders. It's democratizing the ability to build stuff. So, like, 5 or 10 years ago, if you had an idea for something that you wanted to go and build and try,
Mhm.
and you were not a computer scientist, you didn't know, say, how to write code, or you didn't have a technical background to go and understand it, yeah, you would have to find a co-founder. You'd have to go convince somebody to come and kind of, like,
Yeah.
build that thing with you. You don't need to do that now. I was talking to the CEO of this startup, and she had this idea for women's health that she wanted to go and do. She was not technical, and she built her product and took it out to paying customers without a technical co-founder. And, like, I think that's amazing, right? So,
Hmm.
like, all you need is an idea, and it's not just all you need is an idea, but you need a product that's gonna resonate with people. And as long as you have the ability to be able to refine your product and be able to take that feedback and know how to make it, like, really work for some kind of problem that someone's trying to solve, like, sky's the limit. It's an awesome time, to go build stuff, and to go try stuff, and to go do it. And then the second thing I'll say is, and just because somebody tried it before and failed doesn't mean that, yeah, you might not be successful now, because
Hmm.
there's a lot of different reasons why a particular idea or a concept might not have worked then, that suddenly, it can work now. Sometimes that idea, it was just too early. Sometimes the market's not ready for it. Sometimes whoever built that, maybe didn't market it correctly, didn't tell people what problem it solved for them, correctly. So there's all kinds of reasons why, it might not have worked. So, you kind of have to, if you have an idea for something and you're doing some research, and you find out, oh yeah, somebody else tried this a couple of years ago and it didn't work, you really want to go try to understand the why of it, right? Get into it, like,
Yeah.
see if you can dust that thing off and try it, and then try to figure out, like, hey, what's potentially, like, what assumptions were they making of the industry they were in, the market, their customer, their user, all of those things, and do those assumptions still hold today, right? So if somebody tried something, say, in 2020, well, we had a pandemic going on, and, conditions were very different then. So conditions are different now, and same thing for whatever era you might pick. So yeah, just try stuff.
Got it. That's great advice. Yeah, thank you for that. I think the listeners are going to find that super helpful as well.
Yeah. Well, and for us too. We're always looking to create something, start our
Of
own little
course. Yeah.
little business or something. And
That's our whole brand.
I agree. Yeah, it's never really been easier than now, and it's like it's motivating, that it's so doable. And Oliver, you were saying, literally yesterday we were talking about this, having this conversation. Um,
Oh boy.
it's
What
gonna
was
come to it's gonna come down to marketing really, because you
Yeah.
have all these competitors. Everybody's able to make something. It's like, how do you
Mm-hmm.
get the target market to see your product over everybody else's? So it's like we got to shift our focus in different areas. I feel like that's a change we're gonna have to make. But yeah. Real quick, can we do the AI or real segment, Oliver?
Oh
Real or
yeah,
AI?
we have some pictures. Yeah, some pictures that we want to show you. I think we just have two for each one. We have one of animals and one of a landscape, and you're
Okay.
gonna look at both and tell us which one is the real one.
Oh
And
boy,
we
dangerous. Okay.
and we promise you that one is the real one.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. First up, this is the first photo. This is the second photo.
Kind of a bad second photo.
Oh man. Okay. Let's go back up top. Oh, this is hard.
Yeah. I honestly, they
We
both.
kind of cheated him here. I promise you that the second question's easier than this one.
Okay. I'm gonna go with the first one's AI and the second one's.
Oh
You're
my
right.
gosh,
You nailed it.
genius!
Dude,
Nailed
I would have said, looking at these, I probably would have said the opposite, just because of like how faded out looks over here.
it. Yeah,
I mean, it's heavily filtered,
and
Uh,
but
the first one looks so good. Yeah.
all right, next.
sometimes it's like 50-50, right?
All right,
Okay.
real or AI?
That looks like AI to me.
That's
All right, then we got this.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that could be AI as well,
That
like
could be
given how
AI.
good AI is.
Right.
But yeah, I think that of the two, of course, that one's real. Yeah.
All right, yeah, that was a gimme pick, and I guess we only had two, so you nailed it 100%. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah,
All
the
right,
first one was
great.
impressive. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, no,
I was. I mean, look, it was 50-50, right?
It
So,
was.
yeah. All right. Well, is there anything else that you want to say to the listeners out there, just to end it for us?
no, I mean, this is no, this has been great. I just go back to what I said. Keep if you're a photographer, keep photographing. I also think it's never been a better time to be a photographer, either. I know there's a lot of folks worried about, is AI going to obviate the need for photographers? I don't think it is. I think it's actually going to make people appreciate the work that the humans do. So it's a great time to be a photographer. It's a great time to be an entrepreneur, to be a builder, to build stuff. So yeah, they go out and do it.
All
That's
right.
awesome.
Well, thank you everybody for listening. That was the greatest photographer in the world, Aravind Krishnaswamy, and yeah, he doesn't do weddings, so do not try to get him to do your wedding.
He's gonna do my wedding.